time. Let's get started with the news, man. Well, you want to share a bit
Sure.
about your weekend, though? How are things with you, man? I know we got a second here.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep it. I'm still surprised how the translator thing it's so accurate. Like, I don't know if it's on you or it's only on me that I can see the subtitles of what we're talking. Can you see it too?
Oh yeah, hear the speech to text. Yeah, it's pretty wild, right?
It is wild. It's amazing how it register everything, even with my accent. That's the crazy part.
I guess it's
Um,
like, yeah, man. If there's gonna be one platform that's gonna have the most badass voice to text, it would be Twitter before they launch Spaces. What's
yeah,
interesting though is that you can't, at least in my experience, and if people have some magic to solve this, please, like, I'd love to know. But if you can record the space and it enables playback in Twitter, but to actually download that as an audio file is damn near impossible. I swear to God, it's wild. And it's sort of frustrating, because I'd love to do some highlights and stuff. You can clip it here. Actually, I think I have the settings, or maybe I don't, to like do live clipping. But yeah, Twitter, please make it easy just to click the download button when it's done.
yeah. I mean, this is these are wild times. Anyways, how was your weekend? Welcome everyone. Welcome, Wilfred. How was your weekend?
Well, for Jim, yeah, it was good, man. Can't complain. Had decent weather around here, and like today is going to be the first day where we have some rain for a bit. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not really complaining because the temperature here is perfect, so it's great. How about you, man?
All good. The heat wave that's sort of coming to Europe, is in Europe. It's passing by. It's passing already a little bit. So the weather is bearable at this time, thanks to the Lord. And we're all good. We're all good. Yeah, all good. You want to jump into the news?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I think I got the audio settings here sufficient. You want to hit up Gitcoin first here? I had it a little bit here and there on the list for today, but
Sure.
Gitcoin first. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do Gitcoin. Um, so this proposal started on August the 13th, and it will end on August the 19th. And it's a proposal that says withdraw 10 million of GTC to diversify our treasury and increase governance partners. And basically, as the launching of the protocol approaches, the proposal seeks to extend Gitcoin governance participation to a few new partners by exchanging governance tokens with stable tokens. If the proposal goes through, 10 million of GTC will be withdrawn for diversification of governing ownership. The goal of this treasury diversification is not only to add stable coins to Gitcoin's treasury, but also to get GTC tokens in the hands of long-term, high-value add partners. So basically, it will be around like 17.5 percentage discount on the 30-day price average. 1 year lockup with a linear 1 year unlock thereafter, 2 years fully unlocked, and Hedgey will be used to help facilitate the trade and look up. It's nice to see Hedgey Finance popping here. So yeah, that's basically the proposal. I think it's the first time I see Hedgey Finance on another it sounds awful, but in a bigger fish kind of pool. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, their tools. They have a number of different tools that they built over the last year or so, and continue to do so. So yeah, I love seeing Hedgey up in the mix here, helping specific on the treasury management side, which is really what they have a lot of expertise at.
Yeah, and this was at the end voted with it's still in can still vote, but it's passing so far with a yes. And a 2.3 million GTC on here, and about 400 voters on this. So this proposal has been quietly discussed on the forum, around 30 comments on the forum for this Gitcoin treasury diversification. What are your thoughts on this? Have you read through this?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sort of pro diversification, and it's every DAO does it a little bit differently. Not only in terms of like, I mean, in general they have a goal in mind, but it is specifically to put governance tokens in the hands of strategic partners who can help us improve our protocol. This makes sense. I mean, the devil is in the details here, and I admit I haven't gotten into it, but 10 mil is a significant chunk here, and yeah, I mean, I think that using tokenized incentives to build out like partnerships that with like long-term builders in the space. I mean, it's exciting. I'd be curious to see how this, like, what are exactly the types of investments that are selected for this diversification initiative. Do you have any idea if there are specific projects and partners that they have in mind here?
No, I looked through it, and it didn't. They didn't mention. They didn't mention anyone. They do explain on the forum that it says overall, Gitcoin DAO is looking for a long-term strategic partners that bring a diverse set of experience, competencies, and ideals to the table. And ideas to the table. Apologies. They should see this as a partnership whereby all parties will work together to nurture Gitcoin to the stellar project it aims to be. We invite participation from DAOs, Gitcoin community members, highly integral individuals in the crypto ecosystems, and groups that align with Gitcoin mission of funding public good. We want to cultivate a robust group of entities and individuals from all parts of the crypto landscape, and so on. So I guess this is on the works, or waiting for, or at least they have a vague idea of, who to sort of co-best. But what I find interesting is the timing. I mean, I guess it's a great time to buy tokens or exchange tokens with another DAO with the lower prices as they are.
Sorry, I think
If you're,
I muted myself
yeah,
accidentally there. Yeah, no, I
there
would
you go.
agree. I think that this is, in a sense, the bear market that we're living through right now provides like a filter for the quality and intent of potential partners that you might, find through an initiative like this, right? I mean, you can imagine a lot more noise if something like this was being attempted 6 or more months ago. Yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, I'd be curious to sort of follow how this goes, right? This specific initiative over the next weeks and months. And doubling back to Hedgey for just a second, I think in this case, this is like they've managed to create a real use case for NFTs that solves a genuine pain point for DAOs, right? I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with Hedgey, Edu. Like, have you explored their set of tools?
I have heard about it. So I have not explored them myself. Every time I dive into this, hello Billy. Every time I dive into this finance DeFi things, I get lost. But I did take a look at it, and I know that they have the capacity to do this NFTs. Kind of, what was the word you used? Innovation.
Well, yeah, it's like, I mean, so there's a number of different ways. I think there's a couple different products that they have, but the one that Shapeshift is used, One Hive is used, and it looks like Gitcoin is taking a look at here as well, is, it just makes it super easy to vest tokens. So in the case of Shapeshift, like, if you're a contributor to Shapeshift, you can choose to receive a certain percentage of your compensation in Fox tokens, but you then can choose a locking period that gives you a multiplier. Okay, so like, right. Say you're making $1,000 from Shapeshift a month, you want to take 50% in Fox token. Well, if so, by default, these are issued through like vesting, these Hedgey vesting NFTs. If you wanted to lock for 3 months, you get like a certain multiplier, 6 months multiplier, 18 months. So the way that, what Hedgey does to enable this is, you set all the parameters yourself, and you can load an NFT with, say that $500 worth of Fox.
Right.
set a release period, where it will remain locked until, and then all of that is just programmed into an NFT that's issued to the contributor. The contributor can then take that and just chill until it unlocks. They have a cool piece of artwork, or they can actually sell it on a secondary market, right? If they wanted to, they could turn around and make it liquid sooner, probably for, the market would have to determine what they'd be able to get for it. But I imagine something similar is what Gitcoin's considering with these partners through this diversification proposal, perhaps.
There you go. All right. Do you want to move on to GR15 round structure, the next proposal from Gitcoin?
Yeah, man. Did you get a chance to take a look at that?
Yep. It's interesting that they are sort of preparing themselves. So let's track back a little bit. So the TLDR from GR15, they explain that basically they plan to decouple platform eligibility from main rounds. These words get me so hard. Main round eligibility, and this marks a key milestones that as they move towards Grant 2.0, a world in which ecosystems have sovereignty over their own eligibility criteria, without grants having to meet what Gitcoin deems to be a public good. This means that grants will now be able to be approved into ecosystem or cause rounds without necessarily having to qualify to the main round. Beyond that change, they plan to run GR15 with the same structure as GR14 in light of their seed grants platform being in maintenance mode as they build grants 2.0. And then on the structure, what I like is that they are sort of, have three main rounds: climate, advocacy, and day. Which is basically the day one stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is, maybe they have had this before, but it's the first time I see it, and I really like that they have sort of a round focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I think that's the thing that we need the most at the moment. What are your thoughts on this layout for this structure?
Yeah, no, I found it really interesting, and I think that, as you said, sort of you can get from the TLDR at the top. This essentially marks a turning point in the sort of the path towards decentralization of Gitcoin, enabling these specific ecosystem or cause rounds to be managed in a way that's less centralized and less reliant on Gitcoin proper, I guess. So at the highest level, that's exciting. And then, of course, as you mentioned, and people can check out on the Gitcoin forum here, I'm showing on the YouTube, the vision for this Grants 2.0 program. And there's a couple graphics here that I think help to illustrate this, rather than sort of being this monolithic entity that really has oversight on all aspects. You have the creation of a platform and then an ecosystem on top of it. So this notion of a grants registry, with the ecosystem that lives on top of that and is managed by these ecosystems of these cause rounds, which I don't. So this post on Grants 2.0, which is it's Kevin's vision for the next iteration here. I don't know if there were cause rounds in GR13, but I do remember seeing and giving to cause rounds in 14. One of which was actually they were beneficiaries in a very specific neighborhood in physical space, I believe in California. So yeah, I think it's cool. This is coming up here soon. GR15 will be upon us.
Yeah, and they are, in GR15, they are adding the advocacy round, which is, it says an advocacy Web3 regulation round and a decentralized science round, which also, again, both things are extremely needed in light of everything that's going on. I don't know if I don't think this was timed to Tornado Cash or anything like that, but just the fact that they have a advocacy Web3 regulation round, I think matches the timing of the present more than ever.
Yeah, the Tornado.cash was a significant recipient. It was one of the top public goods funded in Gitcoin rounds, I think going back quite a ways. So yeah, I agree. The timing is important, and I think a lot of people. Yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent too much about like tornado cash, but I think that this is people anticipating like a real serious regulatory crackdown, but like nobody could have really predicted where that was going to happen. But I think that this has definitely been a wake up call for a lot of people. So having a round specifically dedicated to it, I think will be, the fact that it's early September will be interesting because people get energized like right around the time that something happens. But the question is how long can people stay energized? And it'll be a nice test to see a month later how much people are willing to show and sort of put their money where their mouth is to support some of these causes.
Yep, I agree. All right, so we can move on into Uniswap. We are just following up a little bit of what happened last week with the foundation story that we covered. So basically, this is just the consensus check, which is the next step after you have the 10% check. And I read through the proposal, the updated version of the post that was put here 5 days ago, and I didn't see much of a change. So I don't know. I think they added the feedback on the sense of like questions, because at the bottom of the forum post there are a few questions that have been asked and answered, like what kind of grants will be an expanded UGP be able to provide? What type of candidates are you seeking for a third board member? Like there are questions that are sort of addressed here that came from the 10% check post. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I will have to go through in detail, but I didn't see any other sort of change to the proposal. They're asking the same amount of money, 74 million, if I'm not wrong. So, and so far it's passing with 60 million uni, and it will end today. It already ended today. Sorry. 30 minutes ago, it seems. I think this is in European time. If not, it will end later today. But so yeah, it seems we will have a new actor on the stage with the Uniswap Foundation. It has a lower turnout of vote than the 10% check that has 35 million uni. This one has half of it, but I think it still passes greatly.
I'm glad we had a chance to sort of follow back up on that one. And it is something that you shared. We all saw the tweet from Ryan Selkis, founder of Messari, specifically on this topic of the Uniswap Foundation, and even sort of include some nice screenshots I'll share in here via YouTube about this specific initiative here, sort of the scope of it, pursuit of $74 million budget, and then they had the budget breakdown here, which is nice, between sort of grants and operations. For 2 years, it looks like, is the operations budget. You can see the sort of proportional breakdown here. Obviously, grants taking up the largest chunk of the budget. It looks like exactly 60 mil. And then they have community sentiment. So they have essentially a breakdown of key voters on this that you can expect to see here. And I think some of this stuff, I'm not entirely sure, but I do believe some of this, the screenshots that were shared from Ryan's Twitter, these are not accessible unless you're like a paid subscriber to the Messari platform. But this is sort of the inside line, right? You can see the predictive data, I guess, on what it's going to look like in terms of the governance action itself, and its intention. And then they have foundation token allocations to sort of see who are not just individuals, but who are the big foundations that are going to be involved in the sort of foundation allocations for each of these large projects. So I'll include a link to this as well. We can do it in the comment section here, I guess, on the Twitter space, like we did last week.
Yeah, if I go to the one of the screenshot that says community sentiment for Uniswap Foundation proposal. Um, yeah, it says delegates with 32 million uni of voting power are in favor of proposal, while non-delegates are against the proposal. So it's peculiar, and the last, I don't know if you can help me with this, but the last one, the last column that says voted on proposal. I guess the X means that that person didn't vote on the proposal. So you got a bunch of people who had a lot of delegation power that didn't vote on this proposal, whether that's for good or for bad. They didn't. So I don't know. It's just interesting to see all this, and you see that most of the people, because they show the against and in favor. Um, so you have a few people, more than a few people saying no, but all of them, none of them were delegates. It seems that here, at least on this screenshot, most of the delegates voted for. You know.
Yeah. Well, and so they got this. When is this vote over? Today, right? And then
Yeah.
they move on to the on-chain vote. Um, and I think that that's done on Uni's sort of proprietary uh, interface. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah, it seems that's the way. But yeah, that's the case in Uniswap. So we will have the Uniswap Foundation. I think they even have job positions open. Let me see if I can get the link. Hello, Armageddon. Welcome to the stream. We are going through right now through Uniswap Foundation creation and all the steps that they have taken to achieve that, which has been a lot. It has happened quite fast. This process, I will say, but they are ready. Yes. So I will send the link to you, Ted. I don't know where I will send this to you, but I will try to send it to you. So they have Uniswap Foundation jobs, and they already paused the jobs before this was ratified. So that's interesting. And they have a job for community lead, partnership led, and then they have three teams. They have the ecosystem team, and they need someone for community lead and someone for partnership lead. They have a governance team, and they need someone for delegations, relations lead, and governance lead. And they have the grants team that you need a grant analyst and a grant lead. And they have an operation team that you need a communication lead and a finance lead and a protocol team. So they have a bunch of positions open for people to apply. So yeah, it's funny because in the nice to have of the community lead position, they say that it's nice to have that you are in too many DAOs to count. That's the first time I heard that on a job position in Web3, that they value that you are in many DAOs.
Yeah, sort of the default, right? And so, yeah, not only covering the news here, but potential job opportunities. Yeah, Uniswap Foundation. GM to everybody who just joined us here. We're talking about this story we covered last week, and it made its way through the next step of the governance process, headed to an on-chain vote there. So yeah, obviously the expectation is that it will pass. As I said, they're already drafting job positions. The goal here, actually, let me go back. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a really great image here from Ryan Selkis, and I'll try to get it full screen. It breaks down the grant budget into a nice pie chart here. So you have 6 million for community growth, 3 million for moonshot ideas. So they got a lot of interesting stuff going on here at Uniswap, and the launch of their foundation is obviously somewhat imminent. So yeah, GM to
Yep.
Armageddon Humpty.
All right. So that's on the end of the Uniswap, and then we can move to one that you will like, Ted, the Gnosis one. Will you care and explain the Gnosis one?
Oh, yeah, of course. So yeah, I wasn't sure if we're going to the optimism yet. So I'll bring this up on screen here. Yeah, I had the good fortune of having a chance to get a proposal up on the Gnosis DAO forum, and then subsequently Snapshot. Closes tomorrow, and if all continues apace here, it should pass. And we're going to pilot a bi-weekly communications show concept thing. This DAOcast, that's what we're calling it. Glad Armag's actually with us in the space right now. I'll be working with him. If y'all don't know, Armag is social media wizard for Gnosis DAO, Gnosis Chain, actually, I think specifically. And so, yeah, I think this is something that should, I hope, get underway before, well, look at the calendar now. I think, yeah, before the end of August, I'd really like to get this rolling. That may be a little bit ambitious, but we'll see. And it'll be a bi-weekly program in the Gnosis Chain Twitter space to highlight everything that's going on in the ecosystem, as well as the Gnosis DAO community, sort of broader community, as appropriate. So yeah, I'm stoked for that. And thanks for including it on the list, Edgar.
So yeah, this proposal seems gonna pass, the DAOcast one. So that's on the end of Gnosis. It's vote will end tomorrow. So if you have GNO, please go and vote. So far it's passing with 99%. So that's good. And it will end tomorrow, August the 16th at 7 p.m. So that's really good. I'm really looking forward for this implementation. I think most of the news always covered or are focused on Ethereum. So it's always nice to have something closer to home, and know that you can, if you got lost when the holidays for 2 weeks, or you missed Twitter for a week, you can just plug in and know what's going on in Gnosis ecosystem, and that will probably bring insights for a lot of things that are happening and that you may want to know about. So I think it's a very healthy and interesting proposal up there. All right, shall we move to Optimism?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'll bring it up on screen here. If you're watching on YouTube, we are using the Missouri governor.
Yes, we are.
To sort of show the details. Yeah. And you can scroll down here and check out the proposals. Go for it, man.
Yeah, we have a few of them. We have a governance fund phase 1. We have that for Izumi Finance, for Sushi. And we have one that is particular because it has the title of Revote. I don't know if something happened that they have to revote again with Chromatica. But most of the proposals that are on the Optimism Collective are for the same, to basically our governance fund phase. So we have the first one will be KyberSwap, and it will be to fund KyberSwap with 900,000 OP distributed to over 6 to 12 months. And they explained that KyberSwap will use the OP funds to bootstrap and deepen liquidity for popular pairs on Optimism. And then, of course, we have one that we have quite talked a lot here, and it's Sushi. And it says that the proposal aims to fund Sushi with 500 for OP, and Sushi will distribute the OP over 180 days as a reward to liquidity providers to help bootstrap the initial Optimism liquidity for Trident, with cross-chain swaps via Sushi Swap being the focus. And they will have 3 different pools of ETH USDC, and ETH USDT. So I don't know, it looks nice on the Sushi side. It's interesting also the explanation of what everyone will do with the allocation of funds. Everyone have a different set of parameters for this. In the case of Izumi Finance, it will be 300,000 OP, and it will be also allocated to liquidity providers over 8 to 12 months as mining incentive to help boost APR and grow the protocol TVL on Optimism. And the last one on Chromatica is another 300,000 OP, and it will be for the creation of the Chrome/OP trading pool with 90,000 OP, and the gas fees for users on Chromatica, the app, 60,000 OP. Limit order OP airdrop, 60,000 OP. A liquidity mining program for OP and Chrome, a referral, and marketing. So I guess this is a suggestion of airdrop from Chromatica. Is my assumption correct, Ted?
Yeah, so I didn't dig into the Chromatica as much there, but I do want to note that essentially we're in the next. It seems like the next wave of funding requests to Optimism. So we had that large wave that then went to Snapshot that we followed in recent weeks, and we kept sort of tabs on those that passed and those that didn't, and actually, if you're watching on YouTube right now, if you've been over to Snapshot recently, I'm not sure if this is a general feature upgrade or if it's something that Optimism has just enabled, but if you are looking at like the home screen for a DAO on Snapshot, you can actually see the voting outcomes by percentage in favor, just like right there, which is super cool. I mean, as you know, we're going through this every week. I don't have to click in, which is sweet. So what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make here is that this most recent, key DAO all the way down, Barn Bridge, et cetera. We talked about these. Some of the ones you're mentioning today are likely to make it all the way over to Snapshot. It'll be interesting to see, meaning who will pass and who won't. I think Sushi is one of the more highly likely to. At least it's one of the sort of more OG status than some of the others that are here in this next wave. So it'll be interesting to see, I guess, from the list here you can see MSRA, which of those, once they make it to the snap, which will pass and which won't, and get those OP incentives. I think Sushi's making the biggest ask here for probably close to $750,000. Yeah.
Yeah, and just pay attention to Chromatica. If it passes the proposal, they have here explained that they may have an airdrop. So just keep an eye on that, just in case. You never know. And I think KeeperSwap asked more than Sushi. They asked for 900,000, whereas Sushi ordered a little bit less, half a million. Yes. And KeeperSwap, which I have never used, but they requested 900,000. So
yeah, and it's definitely something we'll keep an eye on here. And to your point of some of these projects, we're talking about airdrops is something that you can check out more closely on the Optimism forum. Obviously, they are geared towards funding public goods and the like, but there I think are some new and novel projects that have launched. And we talked about Velodrome a couple of weeks ago. Billy's got the inside line on that, but Optimism is definitely an ecosystem to keep tabs on here. Again, as we said in the past, I think since launching the token and then now having these sort of open pitches for incentives, they have a bit of a leg up over Arbitrum, but we're not. I think we're still early days here in the L2. Space.
Yeah, and Arbitrum. I mean, they mentioned they're gonna relaunch again the Odyssey, and not only that, but they had this partnership with Reddit. That's a lot.
Yeah, man. Can you elaborate a little bit on the Reddit partnership for Arbitrum?
Yes. So they shared this a few days ago. Let me get the link. They shared this a few days ago because the community from Reddit, they are trying for a while. I mean, for those who are not familiar, I'm pretty sure most of folks here are familiar, but Reddit have a very strong crypto community. In fact, there are some sources of truth that have come from there. But anyway, so they have been trying out different tokenization processes. And they launched this partnership. I'm trying to find the link. Let me see if I find it. Give me a moment here. So they mentioned that Reddit announced its entry to the NFT field, cooperated with Arbitrum to launch its own NFT platform. So that's a little bit about the partnership. They are also scaling the community points. I don't know if you're familiar with the community points from Reddit. So they are sort of tokenizing or giving it a revamp using Arbitrum. So in order to improve its service to the community, Reddit decided to design an environment immersed in cryptocurrency. The website will use digital assets that we usually see in other NFT-centric websites. At the time of writing, about 500 million users regularly use Reddit. And here. For those who remember Reddit's statements about Community Point, the statement of its NFT joint venture is no longer a surprise. Earlier this year, the social news aggregator stated it will launch a summary focused on Arbitrum to test the system. Anyways, so yeah, we will see. They say that 80,000 users from different subforums in Reddit, subreddits, are testing the gas-free transaction function. So.
Got it. Do you have any? I know you mentioned Odyssey earlier, and we were covering that like since before it started, but then they had a little bit of they put a pause on it. You say you think it's coming back around soon?
Yeah, they made a small announcement a few days ago. When they did the launch of the Nova, Arbitrum Nova. Let me see if I can find it. And they mentioned that fall will be the time of resuming the Odyssey. So they didn't give a specific date, but they did mention that.
Cool, man. Well, you had like I said, you had that Odyssey weeks before it started, so you are the you're the good source of truth there. You got the pulse on the L2s.
We will see about that. All right.
I had this. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go.
I don't know if you had a second for one more story, or what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, of course. Let's do that. So,
cool.
What? Sorry, I got lost in translation for a bit. Give me a moment.
Mind if we hit the Radicle story? Is that cool?
Sure, let's do that.
Kind of like, yeah. I mean, I'm not some super user of Radicle, but I think that this is a project that, of course, I encountered really through Gitcoin grants, I think. And correct folks in the audience if I'm on the I'm not characterizing it correctly, but I believe Radicle is kind of like an alternative to GitHub in some ways, like a way to collaborate on building code. And it's more or less like crypto native, and they are in an active forum discussion about transitioning to a DAO. So if you've ever supported Radicle in the Gitcoin rounds, I think honestly now is probably more important. Like, I sure should hope this doesn't get screwed. I don't know what else to say. We talked about TC getting huge, large donations through Gitcoin in the past. I feel like the decisions that were made, and I don't know the exact state of play right now, but to scrub open source code from GitHub is kind of a wake-up call that tools like Radicle are important. And so hoping to see like support for Radicle, but also the sort of news of the day is that they're actively working on sort of decentralizing themselves. And I have this started on August 11th, which was, I have no idea if there's like any correlation between what happened last week and this decision to sort of take this conversation public 4 days ago. But it's pretty cool. Radicle is going to DAO it.
Yes. So, and it would be quite in a hurry if they did it just in the context of the situation that has happened the past days. I'm not so sure about that correlation. Maybe it's just randomness. So they explained that they mentioned that they want to transition the core teams in November 2022 and the initial team transition by February 2023. So they already have sort of a roadmap for the transition of their Radicle DAO. So I don't know. We will see. They are requesting 2.75 million USDC to fund 6 months of core teams operational until February 2023, and 1 million RAD to distribute among Radicle contributors who joined the project post token launch. So They have in the forum, they have a very walkthrough process of how this is gonna happen. They didn't have a lot of engagement. Maybe this already happened on the previous one. Yeah, on the previous sort of Radicle DAO Next Phase forum post, they have around 14 comments back and forth talking about this. But and this was posted on March 29. So they have been in the works for a long time, at least 4 or 5 months.
Yes, I'm seeing phase 0 up here. The sort of official, I guess, temperature check is just a couple days ago, right? But clearly, there's a lot of work that goes into just getting to this point, and a lot of hyperlink documentation here. If folks are watching on YouTube, I'll drop the link here on Twitter as well, just in the chat.
If you click on the first link that they have on that forum post that says the next phase is Radicle DAO, it will take you to the original post that is dated from March 29. Where they explain the path to decentralization within Radicle and the processes they were trying to do. So you can see how they have taken steps along the way for the past month to make this happen. And it seems very well thought. So good for Radicle. I've never used Radicle. I'm not a developer myself. But I think it's really good for them. At least they have taken the time and rhythm to do so.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And if folks are interested, the link to the post we're discussing right now is in the comment section here. We'll try to do a better job. We just migrated over here to Spaces last week, so the intention is to post up links to a lot of the stories that we're talking about. I will do so in the future. I sort of forgot to do it throughout today's show, but I know it's almost the top of the hour, Ed. Do you need to head out, my man?
Yes, that will be all for this Monday. And folks, we do this and we expect this to do this every Monday. So if you like this, you have any feedback, please share with us privately or publicly. And we'd love to know your thoughts. And if you want to share a news or you want to share or us to research about something you have heard somewhere or about someone on the Web3 space regarding DAOs, regarding governances, processes, or whatever else, please don't hesitate to reach us out, and we will be happy to cover them out. Thank you, Ted, and we'll see you next Monday.
All right, Ed. You have a great day, man. GM, have a good week, and everybody, we'll be back in a minute here. Philip, GM, let me make a little transition here on the YouTube side, and then I will grant you speaking powers, sir, and we'll look forward to chatting with you about a number of things in just a second here. Sit tight, everybody. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, GM. So let's go ahead and get you up here, Philip. Let me see if I can send you. Well, I actually do not have admin controls from this account. Give me just a second. You got to request it. I'm going to grant it to you, sir. We should be good to go. All right, GM. Philip, how are you today, man?
GM, doing well.
Good, glad to have you with us. And Jim, to everybody else who's joined the space here. Just tweeted out a reminder that we're going to sync up here and share about Bright ID and all of the things you are involved in. Let me see here. Rohek, GM to you as well, man. We should be rolling here on YouTube if folks want to check it out at 1HTV. We're putting some nice visual overlays there as well, and we'll have it recorded if people want to listen back to it. And let's go ahead and get started here, Philip. I know we haven't had a chance to have you on the show. I'm glad to have you with us today. And I'd love to just hear a bit about you and your sort of backstory, your origin story into crypto, and then over to Bright ID and all the things you're up to today.
Yeah, so I guess at this point I'm somewhat of an OG. Bought my first Bitcoin in 2013 for $112. Certainly should have bought more, but hey, got in there. I got in when I heard that the Silk Road had been shut down and price plummeted, 20% in a day. And I was like, wait, hold on, I've heard of that Bitcoin thing, and shutting down the biggest illegal thing, doesn't that make it more likely to work? So I got in, paid somewhat attention the next few years, and then the 2017 bull run happened, and I got obsessed. I started reading white papers and throwing money at shitcoins. While I got horribly burned in that madness, I never left. I became obsessed with this stuff back then and have been hanging out here ever since. I was inspired back then in the mania that this stuff we were building could be good for the world. Got really excited about the idea of cryptocurrency as universal basic income. And along that process found that if we were going to give value to all the people in the world, I mean literally everyone, we'd need some form of decentralized identity system, and helped found Bright ID to solve that gaping problem. Along the way I also joined a ton of different DAOs, both nonprofit, high-minded DAOs, and also helped found some of the most successful venture capital DAOs in existence, including the Lao and Flamingo.
I was going to say, I wanted to hear a little more about, sort of before we get to Bright ID, which I'd love to just draw you out on and talk a lot about there. Sort of before you arrived at the conclusion that, or the decision to build something to solve for civil issues, what were you involved with? I know Flamingo and the Lao. Tell me a little about your experience over there.
Yeah, those things actually came later, but nonetheless. So. Oh,
did they? All right.
So back in early 2019, Bright ID had done some experimentation in creating a legally wrapped DAO, and met Ross Campbell, who was a great sort of Web3 lawyer before Web3 was a thing and before there were many crypto lawyers. And he helped introduce me to what was then called the Open Law team. They're now called Tribute Labs. And they were dreaming of setting up this thing they called the LAO. It was basically going to be the DAO, except done better, done in a legally compliant way, done with more advanced code, but the same kind of idea of having this open community that could do decentralized venture capital. And joined up with them. I think that launched in March of 19. Joined a interesting group of people doing that, and we've made 150 some odd, 120 investments over that time period in all projects across the Web3 ecosystem, and it's been a great experience. During that process, we also spun up Flamingo DAO to specifically invest in the world of NFTs. Back before really any of us understood what NFTs were, so this was kind of just as things were getting going, and that turned out to be a really good time to dig into the world of NFTs. So Flamingo was had a lot of luck with CryptoPunks before they went nuts, and that's part of why they had the rise they did. Super early into art blocks, and a lot of other great NFT artists and platforms.
Very cool. Tell me a little more about the LAO, as far as just going back to when you said you're trying to sort of replicate or not maybe not replicate, right, the outcome, but to do the DAO correctly and within a good, solid legal framework. Just want to hear a little bit more about that, in terms of whether it was legal documentation or what types of things did you do differently?
So the biggest difference really is on the legal side. So the governments of the world can look at the LAO and understand it. It's a Delaware LLC. In order to meet the SEC requirements, it's limited to 99 accredited investors. So unfortunately, that does exclude a lot of people, but it lets it be completely compliant with the laws, and it has tax forms that it sends to its members. It sends out K1s and whatnot. So it's entirely above board and can invest in just about anything, which the DAO itself of no legal world did not expect it as a thing. Unlike the Lao, which is set up, in ways that exclude people, but also that the governments allow us to operate. So that's the biggest difference. It's more like V2 smart contracts. Maybe you even call it V2.5 at this point, because they've continued to evolve. But there's a great technical and legal team that works on sort of all aspects of what we call tribute DAOs. So the Lao was the first one, and Flamingo was second, and now there's 15 of them, and they all sort of use the same basic legal and technical frameworks under the hood.
Got it. Are there any projects or investments by the Lao that you're particularly proud of or would like to share with folks?
Gosh, I mean, they've invested in all sorts of things. So we invested in super rare before it was cool. We invested in public things like EPNS. We've invested in the company that helped create Tornado Cash. That's been an interesting one recently. We invested in Gitcoin. They invested in Bright ID. And it's really just sort of a little bit of everything.
Well, and then so Flamingo was formed specifically to target sort of the NFT space. And is it like leaning into artwork or tell me more about Flamingo?
Yeah, so Flamingo is predominantly about sort of art NFTs. I'd say mostly art, some metaverse, although we eventually formed yet another one of these DAOs called Neptune. Neon. Neon is focused on the metaverse. So that has overlap with NFTs, but is somewhat different. Flamingo is a little bit more pure towards art, utility NFTs somewhat, and that's had the most. Flamingo is probably the best known one because of its activities in the NFT art space. Its collection of CryptoPunks and art blocks pieces are some of the very best that exist by anyone or any entity out there. We've got almost a complete set of CryptoPunks, and we've got multiple sets of art blocks curated, lots of Grail pieces, and we'll see what that evolves to be over time. We've got starting to have presence in a whole bunch of different metaverses. We're sort of setting up galleries of the art that Flamingo has. It, in some ways, kind of becoming a museum. In some ways, it's an investment fund. We'll figure out over time what it is, but it has thousands of NFTs and a lot of sort of ones that we think will become culturally relevant over time.
I got it. So this Neon DAO homepage is making me feel a little sick to my stomach. I dig it. It's different than anything I've seen before. But you're thinking about sort of the ideas that maybe some of the pieces that are held by Flamingo would make their way into the metaverse via this tertiary project Neon, something like that.
So it's funny. So Neon is kind of another outgrowth, kind of like Flamingo was, where suddenly there was a broad mandate like at the Lao to invest in crypto stuff. And then as NFTs started to emerge as a category, it was like, do we want to like literally buy NFTs? And that might sound reasonable now. It didn't sound all that reasonable 18 months ago or 2 years ago. So we created this new DAO with just the people that wanted to focus on that niche. And now NFTs are this huge thing. So Neon came along with like, hey, we want to focus on like the metaverse. So that new DAO was spun up. And again, there's some overlap, but like it's a more niche thing than Flamingo is. And in the future, I'm sure there will be yet other niches that come along that tribute DAOs will be spun up to invest in, explore, understand, help usher. And each time, like some subset of people come over and join the new DAO, and then a bunch of brand new people come in, and it's each DAO is its own thing. But like I'm a member of multiple of them, so I bring somewhat of a cohesive thought process as I interact with these DAOs. But then there's other DAOs that only someone's only in one of them, and that's their view of the tribute space. So like there's Noise DAO based on NFT music, like Web3 music. There's Neptune, which is based on liquidity. When I'm not part of, it's called Red DAO, which is focused on digital fashion. Got Unicorn DAO, which is based on helping projects and founders that are not white men, helping with diversity in the space.
It's really valuable. And I say the last name again. I heard Neptune for liquidity. I'm trying to jot down the other one, the last one you mentioned for diversity.
Unicorn DAO, I believe that one.
Unicorn DAO. Okay, cool. So I like the concept. I guess I'm less familiar with the notion of sort of a tribute, using the term tribute as a sort of adjective to describe these types of DAOs here. Tribute
with a capital T. So originally there was a company called Open Law, which was structured the original Palau and Flamingo as they evolved and focused on the DAO space. They rebranded themselves to be called Tribute Labs. It's tribute.labs.xyz. So they now have spun up a whole bunch of these DAOs. Now looking at it, looks like there's 15 already deployed, and many more will be deployed in the future. So like each one, it's now easier. So I'm looking right. So the Lao we talked about, Museo is like a decentralized art collective that's not about investment at all. It's like building a digital museum. Dark Horse is about utility NFTs in gaming, which we haven't really gotten quite to, but like it started with Zedrun, and the idea was that like, hey, we're gonna breed digital horses, and there are people in the real world that breed digital horses and make money off of like managing the resources and whatnot. There should be a digital one. They're setting up Beaker DAO, which is about decentralized science. Ready Player DAO is about like in-game guilds, sort of like Axie Infinity style guilds, where you can. How do you get people to use these digital objects in the game? Noise DAO about music, and Coco about CCO projects. It's kind of become a more popular thing. So Coco DAO is going to invest in and help promote CCO as a category of thing.
Category of thing. Well, now I got to ask you, because like from listening to the ones you're sharing here, some of them jump out. It's like, okay, liquidity, yes, like liquidity will always be important and already is, and among those that you think are more sort of emergent, which of those niches do you think, if you had your crystal ball, would you be betting on and looking most into over the next, 6 months, 18 months?
I try to not deal in such short time frames. Like in crypto, sure, that may be a long time frame, but for me, it's actually a short. I think all of these are interesting, and it's really hard to know which one. When Flamingo started, NFTs didn't make any sense to me. I hadn't had my aha moment yet, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, I was glad to do it. Like, I didn't want to be doing it personally, but I was glad to do it with a group of smart people and like talk through the process. But God, I thought it was stupid. I just hadn't clued in the why does someone actually want to own a digital picture that anyone else can have too? But Flamingo's gone on to be wildly successful, and now I do get NFTs and why people would want them. But man, at the beginning, I didn't.
I've had sort of a similar path with music NFTs, to be honest. I have a background in music, and I couldn't understand what is the pain point that it was solving. Like, what exactly is being? How does it make things better? And like, there's obviously different ways that technology can impact on the cultural level, but what has become apparent to me is that the addition of music NFTs, the ability to purchase a song with crypto in your Web3 wallet. Like, just that as it's on its own, added to any ecosystem, is like you're creating a very obvious economic layer or a feature, for people who are perhaps not just speculating but contributing to DAOs and earning crypto. Right, the idea that you could then buy music that you want with the crypto you earned on chain without having to leave the chain. I don't know. To me, at the beginning, what is this actually accomplishing? But I guess time will tell which are really going to catch on.
In music, the two things that I think are most impactful. Number one is that a small number of fans that really support an artist can now fund that artist. There's a lot of artists that can barely make ends meet. Like, they want to be doing their art with all of their time and energy, but they can't because it doesn't pay the bills, so they have to go do some job that isn't what they want to do instead of focusing on their art. But a bunch of Web3 artists have like dropped their stuff and made enough money on that drop to have that as their job, and then they just get to do the art that they love, and then and anyone in the world can enjoy that music that they put out because a small number of people were willing to pay to like shell out real money to like own it. That's awesome. And we have artists come on to the Noise calls and like sort of talk about how amazing and liberating that has been for them. It's just a much more compelling financial model for something, and then the whole world gets to enjoy it. Like, the music is a public good. It's just out there. No one's trying to restrict access to music, which is great. And if this song goes on to have 10 million people listen to it, then like the value of the NFT is probably going to go up. So it works out even for the people that shelled out the money, or maybe they're just like happier to own the thing because it's cool to own something that's popular.
Yeah, totally. It's like an artifact. Yeah. Well, I know Jim, everybody here who's in the space, and CFRS is a buddy of mine who does music and is thinking along these lines, man. So check out Noise DAO if y'all haven't yet. So you are involved with, or in some ways adjacent to, like a lot of these different tribute DAOs, and you are also still I'm not sure your capacity is still at Bright ID, but I do want to make sure we spend some time chatting about that and the origin of that concept and what you're up to there. Whoops.
Sorry,
can you hear me?
The last 10 seconds.
Okay. No, I just wanted to see if we could segue to Bright ID and hear a little bit about the background there. I mean, obviously some of these tribute DAOs have invested in it specifically, but I'd love to hear the origin story of Bright ID and from your side.
Yeah, so back in 2017, I got really excited about the idea of cryptocurrency as UBI. At that point, I imagined sort of like a new cryptocurrency that was specifically going to be UBI, but like Bitcoin or Ether, except that at its genesis, the distribution mechanism would be to all people instead of
miners,
proof of work, or miners, or an airdrop, or whatever. It's like it should go to literally everybody. Like at each time that new units of these things came into existence, it should have wide distribution. I got really excited about that idea, and among the people I got to meet in that process was Gavin Andreessen, one of the guy that took over from Satoshi after he left Bitcoin. He was the chief scientist of the Gitcoin Foundation, and I got to sit down with him and talk through this. And he thought it was interesting that he talked to me a second time, and came away and he said, okay, maybe this could work, but there would need to be some sort of decentralized identity system to do this, because otherwise you don't know who to give it to. And trust me, I tried. He ran the Bitcoin faucet originally, which back in the day, had you gone to the faucet, would have given you 5 Bitcoin.
What was the time frame in which that was open?
Let's see. I mean, that was probably like 2011, 2010 or 2011.
Wow.
Yeah, but eventually he had to take it down because people were abusing it. And there have been lots of faucets tried over the years, and like they all get abused. And we'll get more deep into this later, but the idea is that unfortunately a small minority of people wildly abuse systems, and it like ruins it for everybody else, because it's not, the problem isn't that someone's like going to the faucet twice, they're going 10,000 times.
Right. It's like individuals create this tragedy of the commons, I guess.
Yes.
Small number.
Yeah. Anyway, so this didn't sound like that hard of a problem to me back then. I didn't know anything. I'm non-technical. I was like, okay, great. Worked on a different project called Kua with a guy who didn't quite get up there, but sort of the same idea. And then met Adam Stollard of Bright ID before Bright ID actually existed as a thing. We got really excited talking to each other about how this should work and how this could end poverty in the world. And we were all geeked out back in 2018, and set out working on Bright ID, which finally launched to the world at the beginning of 2019 at Ericon in Germany. We walked around that conference and got people to vouch for each other in the Bright ID app, and started to build a little social graph. The process has been longer and harder than I ever could have imagined since then. But Bright ID is in the best shape it has been in from a technical standpoint, and we're hoping it's near ready to go on a different kind of growth trajectory with some new things that we're launching very soon.
Well, I'd be curious to know. So obviously, One Hive. I wasn't. See, I came into. I'm far from an OG. I sort of came into the crypto space. Well, put it this way: bought Bitcoin in 2017. Sort of holded it. Was exposed through. I was teaching at the time, and these guys are. You gotta buy it. Okay, man. All right, give me $100 a minute. I sort of forgot about it, but DeFi Summer was my major on ramp, and found my way to One Hive, and therefore, right, by virtue of the honey faucet, it was still operating at the time. That's how I found sort of the Bright ID, the app, and then this is part of the falling down the rabbit hole for me, I guess. And since then, every single time I'm hearing about whether it's a faucet or other types of projects that are subject to some type of civil attack, always shilling Bright ID, because I knew people who were there, and being adjacent to One Hive, was sort of obvious there. But what are some of the new integrations that are going on now, or that you're looking forward to, for folks that I think most of the folks on this call are familiar with Bright ID to some extent? What's going on right now with the project?
Yeah, so the most recently launched integration that I'm really excited about is called Unitap, unitap.app. And you can go there today, and as long as you're Bright ID validated, claim off a bunch of tiny little faucets. The actual faucets are not giving out exciting amounts of value today, but that's just because nobody's put exciting amounts of value into them yet. But as soon as they do, the tech is there. So you can go to Unitap right now and get XDAI, Matic, Phantom, Nova Arbitrum, Celo, Telos, ID Chain, a bunch of test nets. So the first implementation that's up right, we call the gas faucet. And the idea is these are inexpensive networks. You just need some gas in your wallet in order to be able to use that network. And it can be a real problem to get gas into an empty wallet to begin with, as like an onboarding problem. So you can go here and for free, you can get a little bit of gas, and so you can get a penny's worth of XDAI, for instance. Well, that's a bunch of transactions on XDAI. So that's really what you needed. Now you could go, get an NFT or participate in a DAO vote or something, because you need some. And it's not even about the dollar amount; you just need some. You can also do this on a clean wallet where you don't have to transfer it from some other wallet you own, because it's coming from Unitap, and nobody can see on chain who asked for that. It also has buttons to add the RPCs to your MetaMask with one click. So just again, ways to simplify getting people onboarded to a new network. We just added Nova Arbitrum. It's valuable for them to get users. So we hope that they and lots of other chains will say, sure, we'll fund the faucet to let real users get on the network. So we think that could be a pretty compelling thing. We're also working on adding other parts to Unitap, one where projects could distribute tokens, not just sort of gas, but any token for their project. It could be a voting token, it could be a fund token. It could just, how do you do an airdrop that everyone can have? And then we also want to set up a side that does raffles. So instead of everyone getting a tiny amount of value, instead, you get a chance at getting more significant value. Imagine that we raffle off a bunch of NFTs, and they could even be quite valuable and just require a lot of tickets. And maybe someone could win a chromie squiggle, favorite of mine. I can't give a chromie squiggle to everyone, but I can give everyone a chance at winning one.
There you go. Gotta gamify the whole process there. I was going to say, I saw so you have the two options there, and the token tap looks like it's coming soon. And this is definitely a pain point, as you mentioned, that a lot of people experience. They might shuttle their assets across and use a bridge, and then they have an oh crap moment when they realize they can't then do anything. The solution I was always driving people to is, the Elk Bridge or something like that, because they have a way for they can automatically shave off a bit of the assets and transfer them to the utility token. But this is much better because it's all in one place, and you got the uni prefix going and everything. It's great. I actually, it was Billy that shared this at first. I think it was like less than 2 weeks ago. Is this a recent launch, or has Unitap been around a while and I've just been sort of
so Unitap went live, I don't know, maybe we opened it up 6 weeks ago. We've not advertised it much, partly because it's not meant to be super compelling yet.
Right.
But it's there if anybody wants to use it. And if anyone wishes to encourage more people to come to any of these things, give us some of the assets. And we have always strongly believed, never quite been able to prove, that free money sells. And I deeply believe that if any of these buttons get to be of significant value, many people will come and claim them. And Unitap lets anybody fund them, fill up the reservoir, and this is just what fairly distributes it out. And the person donating the money doesn't have to worry about moving the thing. Giving to thousands and thousands of people, eventually someday millions and hopefully billions of people is complicated, and everyone shouldn't have to do that infrastructure themselves when we can just have sort of one universal infrastructure that just does it in a non-extractive way. That's what Unitap's trying to do.
Yeah, I found it really useful, folks that contribute to the projects I'm working with. particularly newer folks. And if we had this, it would have made life easier for everybody, because you just point everybody in this direction, whatever, no matter where in the world they're at, like what's centralized exchange they have to off ramp through or whatever. Empower yourself right through the Unitap front end. It's really cool. How do you envision the token tap side of things to work? Just maybe draw you a little more on that vision for the token tap.
I mean, it's going to work much like the gas tap, except that you'll be doing a claim transaction that actually involves using gas. So on the gas side tap, it's a relayer that pays the gas to do that transaction. On the token tap, you'll be doing a claim. Oh, and where do you get gas to do it? We just gave it to you on the other side. So that's kind of useful. But any community will be able to put up whatever tokens that they want to distribute to someone. And that could be a governance token, or it could just be XDAO. This is trying to be a universal income distributor. And great, we can just get a bunch of people to put XDAI or USDC or name your favorite coin of value in there. We're happy to help share that with everyone. I'll give you an example. So I'm a big fan of Song of DAO, and Jonathan Mann writes a new song every day. They're building a system called sort of for community rating of songs, and they're going to use song dust as part of the mechanism for that. And while it does have like dollar value, like you just need to have some to participate. So they're planning on putting some song dust onto Unitap so that anyone just can come participate in that project without having to outlay money. It's not about the money. We just need to get some into people's hands so they can participate.
Yeah, totally. Well, and this obviously is a nice flywheel effect for growing users of Bright ID. As you obviously have to be registered there to access. Really cool, man. Just I love the simple tool. Yeah.
And one other aspect of it, so we haven't implemented this right now. You can go and claim everything that's on the gas tap. In the future, we plan to limit how many claims a user can do. So right now it's all set up to have 1 week claim periods. Every week it rolls over and you can reclaim. So we think we'll probably set a limit of like say 5 per week. So imagine there's 100 things on Unitap, and each week you can come claim whatever 5 you want. And each person will choose the ones that matter to them. And we think that forcing people to decide will be really beneficial to it'll help curate things. It'll make sure that things actually end up with people that actually want them instead of just being actively extractive. We don't want someone to just script this and just come and take every bit of value they can every week. It's like, hey, if your focus is to get the things that have dollar value, fine, go for that. We've got a bunch of like Ether testnet tokens on here. Okay, those really don't have any dollar value, but if you're a dev and you just need that, it's really convenient to be able to just go get some, girly ETH. Not that it's because of the dollar value, you just need girly ETH and a clean address. So the dev will pick that because it's useful to them, and the person that's just, living in a poor country and just needs some money, they can take the XDAI one, and that's fine.
Very cool. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, enabling accessibility for different user types. Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, and it's another thing, as I said, I know you're probably familiar with Billy Jitsu. Do you know Billy? Have you worked with him before? Yeah. Okay. Thought so. He contributed to Bright Idea, though, quite a bit.
And he helped launch the Soulbound NFT project that we did before Soulbound NFTs were like
that's
cool,
right.
Cool and hip. Kind of a silly little experiment. People are like, what can I do with it? Well, you can't really do anything with it. It's stuck to you. You can transfer it to yourself. You can rescue it to yourself. But right, so we introduced a 10,000 NFT soulbound. So you can't sell these things. They don't really have value per se, but we proved that you can bind one of these tokens to a person's Bright ID as opposed to an address. There's all this talk of soulbound, and most of them are still just like, there's like, okay, it's a non-transferable token. Well, there's all sorts of reasons that's not. An Ethereum address is not a good proxy for a soul for lots of reasons. A Bright ID is a much closer proxy to a soul than an Ethereum address is.
Yeah, totally. We're experimenting with a couple different ideas for even just the project here, the TV project, in that issuing soulbound NFTs to sort of gamify the engagement process. Been talking about a number of different sort of models with Billy, but the idea of non-transferables, particularly to early stage projects, if you're either trying to bootstrap a user base or to act, I guess, kind of like a substrate for reputation building within the early contributor base. Definitely interesting options there. I don't know your feelings are about soulbound tokens more widely speaking, but the integration with Bright ID makes total sense there.
Yes, and just to clarify, so when you soulbound it to Bright ID, then you can move it around between any address that like you associate with your Bright ID, but only with an associated Bright ID. And ultimately, your Bright ID drives where it can move in the future. So I could theoretically say, hey, Wells, give me $100 and I'll associate this with your address. Like we could jump through that whole thing. But at any future time, I could yank it away because it's ultimately the Bright ID that controls it, not the address that it is sitting in.
So it could be burned by Bright ID, for example.
We don't have the control. For the Bright ID user, it could burn it, but not Bright ID itself.
Right. Okay, and this was sort of what we're looking at as far as the opportunities to gamify and level up an NFT, for example, and the user's ability. So obviously not to, in the case of Bright ID, to transfer it among addresses associated with it, but even if it's a single address, the ability to not transfer but to burn it to get a better one is sort of an interesting dynamic for the soulbound tokens. Yeah. Cool. I would encourage people who are either listening now or listening afterwards. We get some good hits on the video on YouTube to definitely check out brightid.org. If you're not Bright ID verified, get the app. It's been a while, man, since I have done it myself. But what is the basic user onboarding path? If people just encounter Bright ID through the show today, what would you tell? What's the first step they need to do?
Yes, the simplest way to get on for most people is go to brightid.org, and there's /meet, and there's a link at the top of the website, and every day there's 10 connection parties is what it's called on here. Meet.brightid.org, and oh God, look at them all. There's connection parties. Basically, you go onto a Zoom call for 10 or 15 minutes. There'll be a host there, and they'll help you make your first Bright ID connection and answer sort of some basic questions and tell you about the operation. And you'll walk away with the base level verification. It's a low level verification, but it is the one that's used primarily by most apps. I imagine most of these listeners are in English. There's parties in all sorts of other languages because a huge part of Bright ID's growth has been in other parts of the world. We've had a ton of growth in Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Iran, in Venezuela, in Colombia, in Nigeria. So it's really all over the place. But that's the easiest way to get going. If you know a bunch of people that are already in Bright ID, you may well be able to connect to them. But the simplest thing now is to do that. That is not the long-term way that Bright ID is supposed to work. It's actually never really supposed to be part of Bright ID, but it became a shortcut. And while we've been working on a better, more organic, decentralized way, which the first iteration we're going to launch is called Aura, which will exist a little bit now, but will be getting much bigger and better soon. We hope will allow Reddit from going to scaling linearly to scaling exponentially.
Fantastic. Yeah, I wasn't sure if the connection parties were still a thing, so I didn't want to misspeak there. But
yeah,
I remember doing that and actually meeting a few people through that process that I'm still connected to. So tell me a little more about Aura, though. I know this is something you wanted to chat about, and this is something that grows out of Bright ID or in conjunction with.
In conjunction with. So the Bright ID social graph. Bright ID is open source code. It's a public good. No one owns it. It's just there. It can be the connections between users are cryptographically signed bidirectionally, and you can just like see factually that happen. This account connected to this account. There's no information about those accounts other than that A connected to B and B also connected to C. That's it, and that's not it's not in question that it happened. It's just definitive. Yep, those operations happen. What it means is up for debate. So there's no one way to analyze the Bright ID graph. You can analyze it 1,000 different ways and come to different conclusions. We analyze it in some simple ways and some complicated ways now. And Aura is a way to provide more granular information about certain connections and then run analysis on that, which we think can be, which can scale much better. Right now, you need some points of trust in the Bright ID social graph to start to analyze it. And right now, we have this centralized way of having seed groups, and you can come in and become a member, and then you sort of have some authority, and we'll listen to you. But each new person that wants to come in kind of has to come back to central entity. In Aura, we ask a minority of users to be involved in a game that's sort of searching for searching out the Sibyls and helping the good actors. And if I am an Aura player in good standing, sort of I have some authority, which is called energy in the context of Aura, and I can send some energy to you, and then suddenly, like, you have some authority to validate other people, and you can send that energy on to the next person. So, I can send it to you, and you can send it to Rohack, and Rohack can send it to Humpty, right? And nobody needed permission along the way to send it. Like, hey, you have it. You're allowed to send it on to the next person so that it grows much more organically. And then if I go, ooh, I don't like Humpty. I don't even know his name. I can just see him on the graph and that person's doing sketchy things. And maybe I don't even know Rohack. So I come to you and I say, hey, down the stream from you, there's a problem. So you can talk to Rohack, who could talk to Humpty. Or if the people further downstream won't do their actions, you could cut Rohack off, or I could cut you off. So the authority is much more decentralized. And in the future, right now in Aura, there's one flavor of energy, we call it. But in the future, there could be lots of different flavors. So you're not entirely dependent on getting a particular kind of energy from me, because you're getting energy from 6 other people in 4 different other flavors. So I don't get to drive everything. I'm just a piece of the puzzle. It's kind of hard to explain in short order.
There's sort of like complex dependencies, like depending on these different energy flows. Something like that.
Yeah, and so imagine there's like a Gitcoin flavored energy. Okay, so maybe Gitcoin is going to, when it wants to know the answer of which accounts it wants to validate, it could really care about how Gitcoin energy is transferred around. And maybe they don't care as much about how metacartel energy is passed around. But some other project really values metacartel energy. or maybe they value the two of them sort of equally. That's up to applications can decide, and really I think we'll have sort of aggregators that make aggregate decisions that like look at, okay, there's 100 flavors of energy. These 12 of them are the ones that like we listen to, and those 5 over there, dude, if you have those, that like makes us extra suspect of you because like we know those are compromised forms of energy.
Interesting.
That like the bad guys trade around.
So you can just index those that you want, and then got it.
And
so in this, go ahead.
As a user, you want to get as many different flavors of energy, quality energy from as many different sources as possible to ensure that like you're always good, right? Like you're not dependent on any one thing because you've got 10 different people giving you 5 different high quality energies. Great. If any one of those blows up, it doesn't matter because you've got it coming in other directions.
So is this Aura? Is it a chain? Is it an algorithm? I'm sorry, just a little more context on that. I confess, utterly non-technical.
That's all good.
So this is
it's more like an algorithm that the Breadity social graph and specific, and even right now, sort of like a separate layer of the Breadity social graph. So it uses the unique identifiers that are Bread IDs, but it does not, and it gathers more granular information from the users. It does not at this point publish all of that to the public Bread ID graph. It's like that. It's like sort of a sub graph. That's not trying to extend to the edges in the same way as Bread ID. And being non-technical myself, I'm not doing the best job Adam would describe things.
No, but I get the idea here. So this is an enhancement, more or less, to Bright ID, generally speaking, in sort of a scalability solution. It sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
cool.
everything that's happened in Bright ID up until now is still, all of that is still useful. Like even if Aura becomes the dominant way this is done, it still requires Bright ID to like sit there under. So this is definitely like a layer on top of the foundation that is Bright ID. So nobody has to use Aura, but we expect it to become the dominant way that people do use Bright ID. But it's not, you don't have to.
And this, how or would this impact sort of like user experience if people are onboarding, or would it be more or less the same like flow?
Yeah, so it's going to become in Aura. You need somebody that basically has trusted authority to trust you. One of the problems that Bright ID has always faced is the competing desires for easy to onboard for new people, but highly robust against civils. And the connection parties we have now, if a bad actor wants to come and get one account now and come back a week later to a different party with a different host, they can get another one. It's not. We're not aware of any bots ever getting into Bright ID, but we are aware of people doing these sort of small scale Sybil attacks.
Well, there's no foolproof. I mean, you're looking to dramatically reduce as much as possible, I suppose. But sorry, continue.
So we've got algorithms. So like there's the B2 algorithm that runs on the same Bright ID graph, just sort of runs in a different way. You can set a B2 level of any requirement. So like if you set a B2 level of 1, that's the lowest B2 level. So there's 60,000 people verified on Bright ID. 13,000 of them have a B2 level of at least 1, and only 1,000 have a B2 level of 10. I have very high confidence in a B2 level 10 person. There certainly could be a Sybil in there, but I can't imagine there's any, if there's any. And if you set that B2 level to 20, there's no Sybils in like there's no symbols in there, but only whatever 400 people have that. So it's harder to get. So like, where do you want to draw the line? And we'll have to see exactly how Aura plays out in the real world, but we think that we can be more accurate and more scalable at the same time. It's not going to be perfectly either of those things, but we think we can improve both of them at the same time, and that's pretty good. And
that's pretty cool.
We can let communities do it themselves without needing our involvement.
Well, and that's the scalability side, right? Obviously, enabling communities to curate. That's very exciting. Is this something now that's sort of underway, or more in sort of the thought stages, or where are you all at as far as the Aura is concerned?
So there's a beta that exists right now, but it's probably not actually worth using at the moment. We've got a dev version that we've made a bunch of improvements to that we'll be launching soon, like hopefully by the end of the month, and then it'll be worth sort of friends of Bright ID to come in will be that next stage, which hopefully will be in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and it'd be great to get you and other One Hive people sort of into that beta version, and see how it goes. It was awesome. We our friend Superfizz a month ago went in, and he rated 150 people, like all of his Bright ID connections, and it was so exciting to watch just like what I called Superfizzia burst into existence on the Aura social graph. And it's funny, usually if you saw that kind of activity in the social graph, like it was like perfect Sybil behavior. But because I have high faith in Superfizz, I'm confident that it wasn't Sybil behavior. I mean, he certainly might have rated a Sybil, but if he did, it was because he got fooled, not because he's attacking the system. So something that an algorithm would normally label that automatic activity, when we have the human level of, oh, I trust Superfizz, and so do a bunch of other people. Like in Aura, we would all send him a bunch of energy to like validate that he should have that much authority. When he goes and labels 150 people, we should listen. That's not some dude in his basement that's just like spun up 150 new accounts.
Bots, yeah, that's wild. Definitely, most definitely, ping me and we'll recruit some good folks from One Hive and elsewhere to help test and experiment with this new tool, man. That's really exciting. I'm very like to nerd out on some of this stuff, and I'm also glad, as sort of a sideline here, that Luke is back around the Hive here. So I'll also make sure, that it's good to have him back and see what I can do to get people excited about this.
Yeah, Luke was one of our earliest supporters before Bright ID existed as anything back in his Aragon days. And also I should note, while you're Bright ID and the Bright DAO have been active users of One Hive and Gardens for a long time now. I think we're still the biggest DAO by membership in Gardens. Not that it's super active, but on a raw number of people that are in there. We've gone through Celeste. Actually used it. I think we were the first actual Celeste case to go through a Garden DAO. That wasn't a test. It was a silly thing. Someone challenged something that shouldn't have been challenged, but nonetheless we did go through the process. Yeah, I think y'all were the first ones to implement the what is it? In effect, the staking for governance, single-sided staking for governance. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, we've enjoyed using the Gardens front end there and trying to point people over. I feel like so many of the mechanisms that are included there, including Bright ID, are
just ahead of the curve, and I'm contributing in other DAOs that have issues that these things could solve, but in many cases are less aware that they exist. I mean, it's just sort of easy to default to the up-down vote on Snapshot. But it's space too. I think I'm looking forward to seeing how things change and evolve over the next couple of years.
So it's hardly used, but there is a Snapshot Reddit integration that exists. So the only thing I know that uses it is Songa DAO. But in that integration, in order to vote, you need to hold at least one Songa Day NFT and be ready to be validated, and then you get to vote. If you have 100 NFTs, you still get one vote. So
interesting. So you're enabling that sort of, yeah.
And that can be set up. That could be set up in any way. You could say, "Hey, you need to have 10 hunts to vote," or no one's built it yet, but you could certainly build that to be quadratic. Be like, "Hey, you gotta be ready to validate. You can show up with as many as you want, but hey, we're gonna take the square root of your hunt balance."
Set the parameters how you'd like there, huh?
Right, and there's a lot of reasons why we shouldn't just have straight token voting, and I'm not sure that one person, one vote is quite the right either. But something in the quadratic department, much more likely to give you the outcomes that you really want, that balance the needs of the broader community and the plurocrats. But if you're going to do, anytime you're talking about doing something quadratic, you need Sybil resistance or the system's broken. Because if you can just have your honey in 10 different wallets instead of one wallet, then the square root doesn't hit you so hard. So you need to have a unique identifier that also doesn't out you. It doesn't give up your private information. And BrightID doesn't.
Right.
If you use BrightID with 10 different applications, no one, including BrightID or the applications, can tell that you're the same person across those 10.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at a tool like Celeste and other types of governance backstops. I think the urgency is, it's a requirement. Yeah. And I think as the space grows and sort of the magnitude of decision making grows, right? These sorts of things dawn on people at different times, but. It's and for different reasons, but yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I'll continue to share around BrightID, and I've got friends actually have because it's an app and it's just a nicely designed app. It's actually folks that are not even crypto native, but are interested in the whole sort of process of proving your digital identity. It's a great smooth onboarding process. And I find that people are, interested in learning more about it just by simply downloading the app and checking it out. Unlike some, crypto, I think in some cases suffers from poor UX, but I always found the BrightID app to be a great user experience.
Good.
Look, I know it's almost to the top of the hour here, Philip, and I really enjoyed having you with us today. Appreciate you joining us and giving us the background on your path into crypto and some of the Tribute DAO options that are out there. If people are interested in learning more about those, we will probably do a little retweet and try to include a good list of those that Philip included here today. And if you haven't verified on BrightID, brightid.org, you can follow them on Twitter. Philip's handle is UBI Promoter. You can see him here in this space. Give him a follow too, and I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks much.
Jim, Philip, and everybody here, appreciate y'all joining us. Head over to 1HTV if you want to get the replay there, along with some additional visual overlays. Make sure to subscribe there. Appreciate y'all's support. Y'all have a good day and a good rest of your week. Cheers, everybody.
Great.